Hey folks, I have a really cool product here from Smart Firearms. This is not the smart firearm that you've heard horror stories about that the gun grabbers are pushing. This is a training device. Now the primary market for this is law enforcement agencies and other training entities that work every day with firearms. And but however, it can be, you know, there's benefit to it for everyday citizens, especially if you carry. Its primary use is to teach finger awareness. That's about 90% of what its intent is. What it does is, if you have your finger properly placed, everything's good to go. I have it along the trigger guard, along the slide. If I accidentally have my finger in the trigger, an alarm goes off. So for the training instructor who says, you know, you have your finger in an unsafe position, and the law enforcement officer or whatever says, no I don't, you don't have proof of it, well, this thing right here, this is going to be an embarrassment in front of everybody. It's going to let everybody know that this person has inadvertently put their finger inside the trigger well, which is not good finger awareness. And what this does, what's really neat about this, it allows you to actually train that you're drawing the pistol and fire it without the alarm going off. So if you intentionally put your finger in this well, you can fire it. Alright, and then you pull your finger back out, the alarm does not go off. It's only for unintentionally putting your finger in that well. Now, this has, one thing I've found is that, and this is a known issue, and it does have a fix, some holsters that rely on retention with the trigger guard will set the alarm off. And I had it happen with one of my holsters. If that were to happen to you, go to the website, call the number. They actually have a fix for that. There's a code that you can enter at startup, and they don't really want it advertised because it makes it less sensitive, the trigger guard, so it's not performing at its best. However, you know, that is a fix. You know, if it needs to happen, they'll walk you through how to do it. But I actually had that happen with mine, and then when they walk you through that, they'll also tell you how to reset this so to its original intensity. So if you have a standard holster, it works fine. Now, the one holster that I had that set this off is, don't remember the name, to be honest, off the top of my head. So I'm not going to mention it because I don't want to mention the wrong holster. That one set it off. Now I have a new one. I'm about to do a review on it. It's from Tucker Gun Leather. This one, most of the retention is by the trigger guard, but it does not set it off. Now so far I've been really pleased with myself. I have actually not triggered this once, aside from purposefully triggering it, and my holster triggered it the one time. But as far as my finger control, I have not triggered it once, so I've been happy with that. Now, what I like about this, first off, it's yellow, so there is no mixing this up with a real firearm, and that's one of the issues. You know, when you use a real firearm, no matter how careful you are, there is a chance that there could be an accident because it does fire real ammo. But this is bright yellow. You can't mistake it. Now this has it's a Glock Replica, which I like. I think like 65–70% of police departments in the U.S. carry Glocks, so that's nice. It is a little bit bottom heavy. All the batteries and everything is down here in the grip, so it does kind of simulate a loaded magazine, although the slide up here is not heavy, it's plastic. So it would be nice if maybe they could simulate a little bit of that heavy slide. Now, I talked to Mike Farrell, the owner and founder of Smart Firearms, and we discussed a few things. One of the things we discussed is that this would be nice if this integrated with a laser target, such as laser light cans and the little targets. And that is something that they're looking at and possibly working on for the future. One of the other things we talked about, and one of the drawbacks, I don't even want to say drawback, but one of the downsides is that when you're outside and you're at a firing range and maybe you're practicing with this and other people are shooting, or maybe it's a windy day or whatever, it can be a little bit hard to hear that alarm going off. It's plenty loud inside, but outside it can be a little bit harder to hear that. And he's discussed different ways to turn the volume up, but one of the issues that they have is some of the police departments that they sell this to, they don't want any of that. They don't want any controls on here for people to play with. They just want a device that it just comes to them like this. So, you know, and he's talked about maybe making a couple models, one like this one that has no controls on it, and then another one that might have volume control or whatever. You know, and this product is at a very early stage. They just put this out, I think, this year. So you know, maybe I don't know if they worked on it last year. I'm not sure when they actually developed it, but so it's new. But I think it's, you know, the growth of this as it expands and works into different stuff, and who knows what all they'll come up with. But for what it's intended for, I think this is a really good product. It's made really well. It's durable. Serves an excellent purpose. Now, for me, I think this is good for example, my wife. She shoots on occasion. She's not a big gun person. She doesn't shoot very much. But one of the things I've worked with her on specifically, I mean, of course, we all do this when we work with beginners, but we always stress safety. And one of the big issues with most new shooters is their finger awareness. So this allows me to work with my wife on her finger awareness. And I've seen other shooters at the range, the same thing, their finger awareness. They got, a lot of times they'll walk around with their finger in the trigger well. Or not walk around, but stand at the range with their finger in there, not intending on shooting. But this helps that. Now, the trigger on this, of course, it doesn't feel like a real Glock trigger. It's, I don't know, maybe a couple pounds. So you can't really practice your trigger control with this. But I think, for me anyway, the biggest thing is you can practice your draw. And my draw is something I really haven't practiced probably as much as I should. So it wasn't that great until I got this, and now I've been practicing my draw, and my draw has got phenomenally better. This is the box it comes in. Here is their website, smartfirearms.us. Does not come with a lot of stuff. Pretty basic quick start guide. It's being used by the New York Police Department, Phoenix Police Department, ALEA, U.S. Army, Chandler Gilbert, CC Law Enforcement, not sure what that is, Plano, Texas Police Department, a few others. A full instruction manual is on their website, and it is made in the USA. Here is the actual device. Now, when I was talking with Mike Farrell, one of the things we discussed was the video online of the police officer, and I don't remember if it's Miami PD or who it is, but he's in front of a classroom of kids showing gun safety. He's a trainer, and he accidentally shoots himself in the leg. Now that is something that can be prevented with this right here, and that's Mike's, and what his goal is to eliminate accidental discharges in handguns within a generation. Lofty goal. But all it takes is a little bit of training with this, and you get that muscle memory. It doesn't take much at all, and you'll keep that finger out of the trigger well unless you intend on pulling the trigger. I think it's an excellent product. I really like it. If you haven't looked at this, I would recommend going to their website and checking them out. I don't know if any training facilities near you have them, but I would, try to get your hands on one. The benefits to it are immediately obvious. Just to give you another idea of the application of this, there on the website there's a testimonial from a law enforcement training officer, and as part of the training they pepper sprayed the class. There were 6 students, and after they were pepper sprayed they had to engage a threat, and of the 6 students, 2 of them using this had negligent discharges. If they were using blue guns, they would have never known that, and they would have just went training, went about their business training as usual, engaging the targets, and no one would have ever known that they had a negligent discharge. So that's what this allows you to do. It goes beyond the blue gun, and it's safer than an actual gun. The pricing on this is as followed. They have an SF3 model, which uses Glock 17 and 22 holsters. That one retails for $349. They have an SF4 model, which fits Glock 19 and 23 holsters, and that one goes for $329. And then they have an SF4L, which is light, which retails for $249. That is kind of like the civilian model. That one is weighted, or excuse me, that one is not weighted for realism, but it is shock hardened. I mentioned before that this is weighted for realism, and it is shock hardened. And I've dropped it twice from shoulder height, and still works. So if you have any questions, let me know. Semper Fi.